great things. He deserves all the praise. He deserves all the honor. He deserves all the praise. He deserves all the honor. Lift up your hands, lift up your voices, and give him praise this morning. We worship your name this morning, Father God. We give you praise. We give you honor. We give you praise, Father God, for all the great things that you have done. We give you praise for all the things that you have done in our lives, Father God. We want to thank you. We want to thank you for who you are. We want to thank you for you never forget us, Father God. You never forsake us, Lord. We lift up your name higher. We lift up your name higher. There is no one like you, Father God. There is no one like you, Jehovah. You are the great God. You are the God who does miracles. There is no one, there is nothing impossible to you, God. There is no one that can stand before you. Who can stand against you, Father God? If the Lord is for us, who can stand against us? We worship your name. We magnify your name, Father. We give you glory and honor. We praise your name this morning. And we thank you for all the things that you have done. Hallelujah. We praise your name. Hallelujah. Our God,
He's an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above. We praise.
God's power is
Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. John chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. This is what the Word of God says. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, why do you involve me? Why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, "My time has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. But he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after. The guests ain't had too much to drink, but you have saved the best till now." This is the first of his miracle signs Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him. You may be seated. let me welcome each and every one of you to the house of the Lord. And this morning, I want to talk to you about this topic, or around this title, the best is yet to come. Looking at this passage, it makes it clear that following Jesus means the best is yet to come. But as we journey together, we need to be aware of what's happening around us. We need to know a couple of things. First thing that we need to understand or to know is how to enter into life and not disengage from it. How to present in the places where people can see how we are different. We already know what it means when we say the best is yet to come. But quite frankly, there are so many out there who have no idea that the best is yet to come. They live a life that is depressed, defeated. They have no goals. They judge by external standards, not by God's words. So they miss the juice or the nuggets of life. When we say that the best is yet to come, it is our goal to make it so. But for us, when we got it, we also need to show to others that we know that we expect the best in life. We expect the best from God. But what do you do afterwards with the best that you have received? And the key question is this: how do we receive the best? Receiving something, there is a process involved, right? Let's look at this from the standpoint, right? Think for a moment. All of us this morning embarked in a process to come here, right? My processes aren't the same as yours. Because for you to come here this morning, there were a couple of things that you had to do. First of all, you had to wake up. And you had to shower. You had to brush, fix your hair. You also had to do something else. You had to get dressed. And the process of getting dressed, it's different for all of us, right? Because my way of getting dressed, I have to think it through before I even get out of bed. So once I get out of bed, I know exactly what I'm wearing, and I know tie and shirt and shoes, everything. So that's my process for preparing myself to get here, and I have to hop on the car to get here. But the process that I used to get here may not be the same process, because one thing that I can tell you, in everything that you do for God, there is a process before the best comes to you. The first thing that you have to do, you have to make yourself available to God. That's what verses 1 through 4 states, right? The first thing to note, Jesus did not depart from the daily routines of life. Right? Hey, leaders, pastors, preachers, you cannot depart, worship team members, worship leaders, ushers, you cannot depart from the daily routines of life because you are still part of this world. Although you are different, but Jesus himself, he went to the wedding. Jesus himself went to the wedding. So he did not run away from the daily routines of life. But he was not holed up in a house somewhere, acting or pretending that he is holier than thou. Nor did he complain or moralize what he saw. Instead, he put himself in a position to be available and to be useful. Let's talk about availability to begin with. Obviously, Mary knew something about her son that others did not know about. Despite his challenge to retort her, time after time after time, he's telling her, my time has not come yet. But one thing that was said that was interesting, through it all, she said something that was quite interesting. Mary knew who Jesus was, yet he had not performed any miracles. That was the first miracle of Jesus, right? Cana. But what was said was interesting because Mary said this: do whatever he tells you to do. Do whatever he tells you to do. For you to do whatever God tells you to do, the first thing you have to do, you have to make yourself available. That's one. Do whatever he tells you to do. Okay. How do I bring this home? How many of you have a job here? Well, lift your hands. I want to see the hands, right? Okay. Let me talk to you for a moment. You have a job. If you have a job, do you do whatever you want to do, or you do what your boss tells you to do? You have to do exactly what your boss tells you to do. Why? Why? Because if you don't do whatever your boss wants you to do, there's going to be a problem. You're going to get fired, right? And chances are that depending on the company that you're working for, you may not even get paid. So in order for you to get paid, you have to do what your boss tells you to do, or you'll be gone. And obviously, getting paid is important to you. Because without my money, without your money, can you pay your bills? But here's what I want you to think about. Would you be happy if you do everything, yet you don't get paid? Okay. If you work, let me use someone who works nights, right? Right? Okay. can tell me I don't know because I know the drill, right? So, Sir Chantal, Gerda, you work nights, right? When you work nights at a hospital, it's just like, nah, not like us, no. You have to get paid differentials, right? Not differentials. When you get paid night differentials, you can make some pretty penny if you go overtime. Right? Imagine you, right, work 20 hours overtime. That's your salary, right? Your hourly rate plus differentials. That's some pretty penny. But yet you work, you only get paid for 37 and a half hours or 40 hours. You don't get paid the 60 hours that you work for plus the differentials. Would you let it go or would you ask for it? Gerda said she would be going straight to payroll and argue about where's my money. I'm sure Chantal would say, where's my money? I want to get paid. You would be upset for a reason. But here is one thing I'm going to ask you. But who's your real boss anyway? Is it man or God? I believe it's God who's your real man. Do you know who plans the means for you to support your family? It is God who does that. But here is what I want you to think about for a moment. When he sees us available, right? When he sees us available, do you know what he does too? He gives us the opportunity to do more. Because once we make ourselves available, in return, he determines what's suitable for me and for you to do. And the second thing that I want to touch on this morning is your suitability or your fitness to get what God is asking you to do or what God is about to give you. Certainly, God gives us his best. So we never have to worry about what he gives. It is always the very best thing for us. In order to determine what is best for us, he checks our availability first. Then you know what? Then he does what is suitable for us. So you see, God determines suitability and he lines things up in such a way that it is the very best for our lives. God will not give you something that is not suitable for you. When you ask God something, he knows what's coming down the pipe. He's getting you ready for something bigger. So as you become available and then he finds out that you are suitable for this purpose and God will begin to use you. How many of you guys this morning are available for God to use, but yet the suitability factor, he has not come there yet. But here's what I want you to think about. Availability and suitability goes together. You cannot swear like a sailor and claim to be spiritual. All right. You may not know this term, right? Someone who is a Navy man, that's a sailor. And they curse. You wanna have a taste, which I would not want you to have. I would say during the summer on 42nd, right? On 42nd in Manhattan, right? They usually dock there for a ship festival. Once the sailors are out, they curse up the wazoo. You cannot be a sailor with your mouth and then claim to be spiritual. You can't expect others to hang on every word that comes out of your mouth when you're rationalizing away God's words. You cannot rationalize God's words. Folks, let me tell you something. I want you to take this message from me. You can analyze God's word to have a better understanding of it. But you cannot rationalize God's words. If you rationalize God's words, you are making a mistake. When God says something, he knows what he's talking about. It's just take it to the bank. But what we do oftentimes, listen, none of you guys rationalize things like I did. I've done that in my life, yes. But one thing I come away and I come across with is the fact that God is God. And one thing that I see, I rationalize so much that forgetting that everything that I thought I would not do, God really is shaping my own thoughts, my own ways to make sure that I get to the place that he wants me to get, because God had the very best intention for my life. And I'm sure he does have the very best intentions for your life as well. Your job and my job, it's not an ordinary job at all. Now, you might be thinking, how does this translate in my ordinary job? Well, the first thing you have to see is that your job is not ordinary at all, because you are a Christian. It is proper to go to God in business. Can I ask God to be the very best soccer coach for the summer? Should I ask God more money in my life? Is it okay to pray for a new car? Is it right to ask God for something that I treasure or I value? And why not? But here's what God does. In your asking, while you're asking, God is determining your suitability and your availability first. I cannot be the very best coach if I am not available to actually go to practice. But here is what I want you to think about. Before we get to availability, suitability, you must consider responsibility. Are you going to be responsible enough to do what God is asking you to do? And God often moves in a direction we may not understand. If you can understand what God is saying, how he's saying it, good luck. Because God gives God responsibility. How do you give God responsibility? If you give God glory for the things, for the things, for when things go well, when things are good in your life, then you must also blame God when things go wrong in your life. Because if you focused on God, you do what he says, nothing is going to go bad, but everything is going to go well in your life, because God is in control, because he wants the very best for you. Does it matter who gets the credit? I'm going to conclude with this. How many of you love to take credit for something? That's okay. You can lift your hands up. You know doers, they don't take credit for nothing. How many of you are a thinker or a doer? How many doers do we have here? Do you take credit for what you do? It happens. You don't even care who gets the credit. But here is what I'm going to tell you. That's a little story that I read in preparation for the sermon, right? It's a story about the flying frog. 2 ducks and an arrogant little frog developed a friendship. went well for many years until one day their little pond dried out. So if the pond dried out, eventually they have to get out. They have to find suitable, they have to find available and suitable environment to live. But the ducks knew they could easily fly to another location. But what about their friend, the frog? So finally, the frogs, the ducks, said, we have a plan. The ducks got together with a frog. And they decided that they would fly with a stick holding on their bills. And the frog, in turn, would hang on to the stick by his big, fat mouth. So for a while, the plan went well while they were flying. Until a farmer looked up and saw in the sky, and the farmer said, well, wow, what a clever idea. I wonder who thought of that. What do you think the little arrogant little frog did? Note that he is flying, but he's holding on to the stick with his big fat mouth. So he opened up his mouth and he said, I did. He fell down and died. His pride killed him because he had to take credit. You see, true Christians, they don't take credit, but they give God the credit. When you give God the credit, you can assure, or you can be sure that the best is yet to come. Because the lower you go, the more humble you are, the higher is going to pick you up and lift you up and give you the very best that you never expected. That's my wish for you. That's my wish for myself. And that's my wish for the entire church.